nothing.
Perfect.
How did this nothing come about? I don't know.
Nothing conference? It's a great question. It seems that this whole thing has really just happened. But there's like in the story of its evolution, about 6 or 8 months ago, the idea arose. There's seemingly no specific non-duality event conference that is available, and it just sort of pinged around. And then, like a lot of things, thoughts come and go, and there's no real chasing of them anymore. There used to be looking for meaning and why did this thought happen, and now I need to figure this out or reconcile this, and it wasn't even like, oh no, go away kind of thing. It just was like, oh well, that would be kind of interesting. And then it just kind of it just stayed. The thought just kind of like kept popping up, like, oh, this would be interesting, and that might be interesting. And what if we were to, well, and then the pandemic stuff happened, and live events were getting canceled. And it was like, well, what if we started inviting non-duality speakers and authors, and now it's turned into artists as well, to show up and talk about nothing. and so here we are. I mean, and probably no surprise to you or anyone listening, it's all just sort of flowed together, one thing after another. We started asking people, and people started saying yes, and then more people started saying yes, and now we're getting more and more speakers and authors that are contacting us to participate. So it's super fun. It's been super fun the whole time. Yeah, there's so many flavors, and it's beautiful. There's an infinite number of flavors of speaking and writing, and experiencing whatever that is, this particular topic. And so from a curation standpoint and wanting to make it interesting, then of course there's going to be different speaker types and different topics if we can find that. And I think that if we can't really do it wrong, but if we're doing it in the right way, I guess, in this curation aspect of it, there is this well-rounded take in offering all the different things, and then people can decide what resonates with them, as they're doing anyway. But if someone attends and they hear someone talking about this, and they go, oh, I really like what that person is saying, and they want to hear more from that person or read one of their books, then I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. That's really that's what it should be all about if you're going to put the time and energy into creating an event like this. The fact that it's called Nothing Conference is funny. The fact that there's a conference where there's a bunch of these apparent people talking about their takes on what it is and trying to describe this thing that really is indescribable in words is also, in some regards hilarious. And yet at the same time, I also, when there was really heavy seeking going on, this frustration inflection point that was happening was based on the fact that I kept seeing all these people talking using different words and even different energies, and I was like, there's this thread, there's this thing, this consistent thing that they're all talking about that seems the same, and yet they're all apparently coming at it from all these different angles, and non-doership, nothing ever happened, and all these different things, and it was both frustrating but also even more fascinating, because the frustration was like, why can't I figure this out? Maybe if I read another book, or will go to another satsang, or watch another video, it will make sense. And yet the deal, I guess, that was made of like, hey, you can keep doing that, but just be okay with being okay. Settled things down, and there was a relaxing at the same time. That fascination continued of this all of these pointers pointing to this thing that and everyone I guess ultimately failing at it with words. And even when I talk about it, I think there's often a lot of laughter because I can't believe the ridiculousness of of trying to sit down and talk about it in the first place, and you're tripping over your own words and thoughts that are coming up about it. And yet that's in many ways what makes it so beautiful, is that talking has been happening about it for thousands of years. Writing has been happening about it for thousands of years. And nobody gets it right, but we're going to get it right at Nothing Conference, damn it. I mean, when it was on, it was full on. Probably, I felt like at one point I was probably reading almost a book a week. You know, it's just like nonstop. Probably over 100 easily. And I don't know, I have no idea on talks and videos, you know, couldn't even guess. I mean, and even before I even knew, I've been an Alan Watts fan for forever. I was listening to Alan Watts before I even knew what non-duality was. And at the time, didn't even, what he was saying resonated, but I didn't even know that so much of the content and so much of the things that he talks about are it. I mean, he uses the word, but beautifully in a lot of other ways, doesn't say that word specifically, and still manages to do a pretty good job of pointing to what is. And so it was interesting to be an Alan Watts fan for years and listen. I mean, we're talking like listening to one of his lectures every night, going to sleep, and then being like, okay, so what was the last thing I remember before I fell asleep? And then kind of go back to that, and then have sort of a couple of these, I guess, if you want to call them glimpses, awakenings, openings, and again, still not knowing that there was this category, there's this word for it, and then finding out, you know, oh, this thing, Advaita, non-duality, whatever it is. And then a lot of things sort of came together with that. Like, oh, that's what he's been talking about. And then, I mean, as you and I have talked about in the past, Emerson, you know, there's this love for the message, and then you find it in so many places. Like sitting and watching Mary Poppins did a talk on this, watching Mary Poppins and seeing like, you know, maybe he's talking about that, you know, or in I Heart Huckabees, the description he's talking about with the blankets, and then just, you know, anywhere out in the world, seeing it pop up, you know, of course it's popping up everywhere in all these different ways, but the love for it is makes it not even necessarily like this seeking, but just sort of a recognizing of it in the illusion, little signposts and guides as we're cruising around in the play of life, playing these characters. And yeah, so I don't know, no specific answer on number of videos. I don't really know, but I'm guessing hundreds, you know, easily. If over 100 books were read, then videos are a lot. You can go through a lot more videos than books in this span of time.
So if no one is ever lost, there's no need to be found. There's no one to get here or there. There's no destination. So Noel, how did you get there?
And that seems to be the question everyone wants answered.
I know.
Like, yeah, I get it. Okay. There's no me, but how did you do it?
How did you get it?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I mean, I just, you know, consistently there are so many. we talked about all of the beautiful pointers that there are, and there's some that 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 potentially could create more confusion, like, but that makes sense, but then some may create frustration or some element of resistance, like call off the search is one that I see come up a lot, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense, but that doesn't necessarily help a lot of people. Like, it doesn't help because they're, stop seeking, and someone might say, well, I tried that, but then I read somewhere else that it's the head in the tiger's mouth, and you can't really ever, go round and round and round with words. But I don't, I think that we all seek until we don't. I think
Correct.
everyone's a seeker. Just they're looking for not happiness. They're looking for wholeness. They're looking for peace. Everyone says, I just want to be happy. And I think it's not happiness that's being sought. It is wholeness. It's home. It's peace. It's this. And then they will discover whatever. It doesn't necessarily need to be non-duality, but they'll discover something and realize that, oh, if I just focus my energy on this, then the house and the car and the relationship and all these other things, these external things that I was putting my energy into, and now I can focus them, laser focus them on this one particular thing. And I think it's, speaking of, I Hope You Die Soon, Richard Sylvester, I think he has a really good pointer that talks about the jail cell, with the door open, and an iteration of that is more of I call it a waiting room, because it doesn't need to be an unpleasant place like prison. It can just be a spot where you're hanging out, and then your name is called. your name is called, come on in, and you walk through and you're like, well, the door's been open all the time, there's a sign that says come on in. And so the consistent message here is really don't call off the search. There's no reason to call off the search, because you're going to seek until you don't anyway. Nisargadatta Maharaj talked about earnestness, I think a lot of people talked about abiding in the self. So just in many ways, you're kind of telling people to do what they're already going to do anyway.